All right, so today we're going to review Shop Sabre, the company, as well as the machine we purchased from them. To this very day, we've only ran one job off the machine, and honestly, the results were extremely disappointing. In fact, we ran a similar job on our Shapeoko from Carbide 3D, and not only did the Shapeoko produce far superior results, but it cost 8 times less than the Shop Sabre. Now, after running the first job, we turned the machine back on and began running the homing process. And this is where our problems began. Now, while traversing towards the front of the machine's x-axis, a high-pitched screech could be heard. And after we finished homing it, we began sending it towards the back of the x-axis, and as soon as it began to move, this loud grinding noise materialized. Now, we were able to pinpoint the sound was indeed coming from underneath the machine, and we observed it while on motion, and we saw the ball screw just whipping around like crazy. Upon inspecting the machine closer, we actually found that the ball screw bearing housing on the machine had slid down and to the right. And if you look close at the photo, you can see that the paint was still wet when that occurred. We can also confirm the machine was in this condition before we even took ownership of it from Shop Sabre. Now you might ask yourself, how's that? Well, we took photographs of the machine upon arriving to our house on the semi-truck, and they show the ball screw housing in the exact same position we found it. Additionally, there was also paint that had dripped on the ball screw itself. That was more minor, but it was still what I consider to be extremely unprofessional. We then proceeded to remove the bolts on the ball screw housing using a digital torque wrench. Now, the reason behind this is so we can record the torque required to loosen the bolt if there isn't one specified in the machine manual, and that was the case here. So while reassembling it, we can tighten it back to the specification we record. So I put the socket over the first bolt to loosen it, and I was absolutely shocked. It was so loose it didn't even register on my torque wrench. And believe it or not, I grabbed the second bolt and I was able to undo that one with just my hand. There was no resistance whatsoever. So at that point, it was my own opinion that Shop Sabre hand tightened the bolts and they never torqued them down. We decided that we needed to inspect the machine further using high precision metrology grade equipment. Now, the following method we're using is the method that Highwind recommends, and they're the company that manufactures the rails on this machine. So that inspection consisted of the following steps. Level the MDF top to earth level. After leveling it, you can then remove the top. We set up a parallel. We adjusted that to earth level, and we achieved that using machinist blocks and leveling feet. We then affixed a magnetic base with a dial indicator, attached it to a bearing block, and we ran that down the parallel down the parallel to check the rails for straightness. So we'll go ahead and show you guys that process and an overview of the results that we found. When purchasing any factory-built CNC machine, it's important to understand how your machine top is surfaced. So after assembly, manufacturers use the spindle that you purchased with that machine to surface and square it up, which means the accuracy of that machine top should reflect the specifications that are listed for your machine, the specs that the manufacturer lists. So if it falls outside those specs listed, then it's a good bet your machine was never squared up or it was improperly assembled or both. In fact, it's for that reason we thought we would take our inspection of this machine even further. So we reached out to a friend of ours and they sent us a Creaform HandySCAN Black Elite Plus. So this would give us the ability to confirm if this machine was in this condition before leaving their facility. And we'll show you guys exactly what we found. We showed you the major issues that we found with this machine. However, there were other issues we came across while inspecting it. For instance, the frame on the machine is so misaligned that the top has a significant gap, which you can see between the frame and the machine top. There's also a considerable amount of slag left on the frame from welding, and that was left on top where the contact is with the machine top. That should be ground flat, but it wasn't. We discovered multiple areas where you could see the paint was uncured during assembly. And last but not least, the bottom of the frame was missing paint entirely. So From the moment we found the first major issue, which was the ball screw housing with loose bolts, we immediately reached out and contacted ShopSabre to show our findings and ask for a reasonable resolution. And every time we expressed our concerns to them, we were sent to their tech department, where their solution was to guide us through fixing the machine. And of course, like any reasonable person who just bought something brand new, we said, well, we don't believe it's our responsibility to fix it, when our inspection clearly shows it was damaged before it left your facility. So after hours of labor, investing thousands of dollars in equipment to inspect our machine, we filmed part of this review and we sent it to ShopSabre. And finally, we were contacted by one of their executives. So after ShopSabre reviewed our findings, they responded to the various issues we highlighted in our video. First, their response entailing the 2 loose bolts. They claim they were loosened during transportation from their facility to our house. Now, we checked every bolt on this machine, and they want us to believe that somehow those 2 were the only ones that loosened during transport, but not the other 100 plus. Second, the response to the most damning evidence that showed how the factory machine top from their facility was uneven and that the machine was damaged before it even left their facility. Now, here's where things get even more bizarre. So they blamed us for not escalating this issue enough to get it to upper management, even though we called and conveyed our discontent multiple times. So finally, they agreed they would take the machine back and refund us what we paid for it, but only after they received it back in their facility to make sure it wasn't damaged. So think about that for a second. They're going to make sure that a machine they sent out damaged isn't damaged before they give us a refund. Now, additionally, if we wanted our money back, we had to sign an NDA preventing us from posting this review. So I'm going to end on this. First, ShopSabre wanted you guys to know they completely stand behind their quality control, even though they didn't specify exactly what that quality control was. And I've got to be honest, I don't think I've seen a single area on this machine that suggests they have any quality control. The big question: should you buy a machine from ShopSabre? I think you guys know the answer to that. Before we go, we want to tell you guys the whole reason we purchased this machine in the first place was to make a prototype. So we needed the machine to meet a certain specification as far as how accurate it could cut. Now, I can honestly tell you, it doesn't matter what we do, this machine will never cut at the accuracy that they claim it can cut. And we actually came across a previous lawsuit where essentially the same thing we have going on, they have going on, where the guy owned the machine for over a year and still wasn't able to cut a job on it because it was just so inaccurate. And like I said, it's almost identical to our story. So what we're doing is we're setting up a GoFundMe. And if you guys want to help us achieve our dream of getting the machine we need to make this prototype, we would really appreciate that. Or if you felt like you learned something valuable, or we prevented you from making a major mistake. And if not, that's fine too. But go ahead and like and subscribe, and thanks for watching our review.